Welcome to the Storyboard Room, an animation industry podcast where we share knowledge and experience to help you get in. I'm Eric Bravo, and for today's episode, we'll be diving into the world of writing fellowships. I'm joined by our very special guest, Chung. Haley is a writer-filmmaker who has been accepted to multiple writing fellowships, such as Fred Rogers Productions Writers Neighborhood, Cape New Writers Fellowship, and a writing fellow with Film Independent, where she wrote a stop-motion animated short with support from LAIKA Studios. Haley, thanks for being here.
No, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
So you've been accepted to multiple prestigious writing fellowships and have written on several Emmy-nominated TV shows. But before we dive into the fellowships, I'd love to start at the beginning. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey from growing up in Canada to becoming a professional TV writer?
Yeah. Okay. When I was really, really little, like when I was like 6, I decided I wanted to be a writer. So my mom always says I've been the one-track mind type of person. I didn't think TV at first. I don't think at that age you even know what a TV writer is, but I read a lot of books. So I was like a huge fanfic writer and I would write on Wattpad all the time. So I got really used to doing like character outlines and plot outlines in elementary school. And then, yeah, I think I like read somewhere that, you know, a lot of good famous writers went to Yale, so I really wanted to go to Yale. I didn't end up getting in, but I wrote like a novel, I guess, about Asian hockey players before heated rivalry was a thing. And a sample of that got me into Columbia. So I ended up moving to New York. I was kind of aware that I guess it was way more expensive than if I had just gone to university in Canada. So I was like, I should study something I don't know, like not creative writing. So I decided to study film. And I guess that just led me to TV writing.
Amazingly, you went from Canada to the States logistic-wise. Like, how is it applying from, a different country to the US?
I was on Reddit all the time, like reading about how people did it. I would like look at writers who went to schools in the US and then just see like what magazines they wrote for and things like that. And I would just like kind of copy them. So it was a lot of like, I don't know, stalking and self-experimentation because yeah, my parents didn't go to school in the States, obviously. So it was a lot of just like figuring it out on my own. But yeah, it was kind of a miracle, I think.
So you've been accepted to multiple writing fellowships, from preschool TV focused fellowships to an independent filmmaking one. Looking back, what do you think every one of those programs saw in your application?
I mean, everybody says this, but specificity. I especially love writing dysfunctional characters. So I would write about that in my personal essays. And then also like it would show in my samples. That's something that when I was first applying to fellowships, I didn't think enough about, was like how the personal essays were also part of the writing sample and this narrative of yourself you're trying to build, which sounds crazy, but you kind of have to think about how would someone else perceive me and then like write out all those things to gear towards that. Because if you just put down random thoughts you have, that's great. But for someone who like doesn't know you at all, they just want the log line of you. They just want some like easily digestible version of yourself. It was definitely like figuring out what makes me unique and then like how I would deliver that to other people.
I've also heard that personal statements are the most important part of your application. Kind of like what you're saying, they want to know who you are in a log line. But why do you think that's so important? And what do you think the fellowship readers are hoping to learn about you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess because they're trying to find people they are wanting to invest in. A lot of these fellowships, they end up introducing you to a lot of people in the industry and they want people that they know they can stand behind and people who will take advantage of the program and do a lot with it. Not just people who are great at writing, just want to write and sit at home and not talk to anyone, because that's not really what the business is. You could write a really, really great script, but then if you're not a normal person that like people want to be around, it wouldn't be super helpful to do a fellowship.
When writers apply, should they apply to every fellowship they qualify for, or should they be selective on which fellowship they should apply to?
I think they should apply to everything because that's something I think about. Like there are a lot of fellowships that I was like, oh, I don't think I'm ready for this, or my script isn't ready. Most of them have like, especially the legitimate ones, have free entry. Even like Fred Rogers and Kate, both that I ended up getting, both of them, when I applied for those, I almost didn't apply. Like it was kind of like both of those, like that the day of the deadline, I was like, I have time today. Like I should just submit. And I think that's something you hear about a lot where people are like, oh, I was going to apply to this, or I think about applying for this every year, but you can't get in without ever applying. So I think people should just apply to as many as possible, even if I've been rejected so many times.
Should writers apply to fellowships that you do pay? And how do you know if a paid fellowship or writing program is actually worth it?
The CAPE one did cost money, but they're also a nonprofit. I think that's something to look at is kind of people coming out of the program if they said it was worth it or not. There are a lot of like paid competitions out there. I don't generally apply to those. Being in this industry, it's hard enough financially. Like I'm not trying to also apply for things that are free. I always think there's no harm in applying for that. And if anything, they're probably trying to help. I would veer towards applying to the free things, but things like CAPE are obviously an exception because they're a proven organization that helps like the AAPI community. So I didn't have any like qualms against giving them money.
If someone wants to start applying to fellowships this year, what do you think's the biggest mistake they make before they even start the application?
I'm like, maybe this is bad advice, but like, I think it's totally fine to apply with the first draft. Like, of course, if you have the time and you can get people to give you feedback, that's the best case scenario. But there are definitely times when it's 11:59 or 11:58, and I'm like, if my Wi-Fi drops out right now, I'm screwed. I really liked applying to fellowships and seeing it as, I guess, an opportunity to work on a new script. I applied to CAPE 3 times before I got it, and I got 3 pilots out of it because every year I was like, oh, I have to write a new pilot. And I guess that's something that people should do is they should keep writing new pilots. I know it's easy, but I guess it's the same thing. Don't be precious about your writing. It's easy to be like, this is the best thing I've ever written and I will never write anything this good again. But you will and you can, you just have to do it. The other thing is don't put all your eggs in one basket. I like to just apply and forget that I applied. And then it's like, kind of sad when you get the rejection, but you're not like, it wasn't like you were refreshing every day, pinning all your hopes and dreams onto this acceptance. It's nice if you get it, but not heartbreaking if you don't.
I was curious, so you have applied to fellowships from a first draft. You didn't like share it with anybody. You just like, let's see where this goes.
I know I'm exposing myself now, I guess.
No, I mean, this is like great information because I guess it might be like more raw and more like, I don't know. I just want to get your process behind that.
My thinking is just you might end up spending too much time on a single pilot. Like I said, it is good to get feedback. Like I don't necessarily recommend applying first draft, but if you're scared to apply with the first draft, I think there's nothing wrong with it. Because again, if you're not spending any money, there's no loss to you. They're not necessarily always expecting perfection. They are kind of looking for voice and then something that matches your narrative. But yes, I've applied to things with first drafts and been rejected, but I've also been accepted with things that are also first drafts. And it is like things like Disney, they asked for 2 pilots. I don't know how much time you can spend in a year working on 2 pilots and workshopping it, and it's all for free. You also, I assume, have a day job. So there is some level of like, you should try to apply to as many things as possible. And if time doesn't permit you to like workshop it, then that's okay. You don't have to worry about it. But I don't, maybe this is terrible advice. This is just my approach with it.
I mean, it's obviously worked for you. So I think it's great to see it does work. And I think you're right too, because you are applying for free and it is like your time. And like you said, once you write something, you can't be too precious with it. You just got to like continue to the next thing. I mean, I think that's great advice. If you're applying to fellowships for the very first time today, knowing everything you know now, how would you approach it?
A mistake I made early on is the personal essays. I think the best advice someone gave was just treat those as writing samples. Tell a story with a beginning, middle, and end in those because it is so easy to answer those questions literally. If they say, what do you want to be in 10 years? Everybody kind of has the same answer. I want to be a working writer. And that's not maybe the most interesting for a panel to read. So if there is a way to find a personal story from your past and then explicitly answer the question in one sentence, but the rest is a story about your life that allows them to get to know you and your personality, I think that's way more helpful for people. And that's not something I did in my first years applying. I was definitely like, oh, they don't know these facts about me. And I was writing down facts, which I don't think they care to know, to be honest.
How personal should you be in your personal statements? And a follow-up to that, I know a lot of applicants feel like they need to write about major traumas or,
Right.
life-changing events in their lives. How true is that?
I don't know how other people approach it. I personally don't really write about trauma in mine because, I mean, I guess I'm also like a comedy writer, so I prefer not to dwell on trauma. I'm like, I'd rather lock that away and not think about it. So, I might reference some hardships I've had in my life, but I definitely don't think my essays ever center around it. It feels disingenuous to me because on my day-to-day, I don't usually like unpack my trauma with people. But there's a level of like, you should be honest and be true to who you are. And So yeah, I guess it wouldn't be true to myself if I was just like writing my traumas out.
If someone does have a relatively ordinary life, how can they still write a compelling personal statement?
This is the same with being a writer in general, is like knowing yourself and knowing what stories you have in you that you want to share with the world because they want to get to know you, which sounds so cliche, but it is like showing your personality in any way possible. So, I mean, I can't speak to other people, but I feel like weird things always happen to me. So like I like writing about those in my writing samples.
Is there a mistake that you think people make when writing their personal statements?
Trying to put things from your resume, you have to think about it as like, again, they want to buy into you as a person. They would rather get to know who you are instead of who you are on paper, which schools and like titles don't mean very much in getting to know you as a person, other than you have drive, which I think they can pick up in other ways. It's a lot of the show don't tell, I guess, that they always tell you.
Once you figure out your story and what you want to tell and like you dig deep, how do you put that into a compelling personal statement instead of just telling your life story?
I like choosing very specific moments because you don't have that many words. I always do like a word vomit draft. My favorite part is just deleting entire sentences and paragraphs and seeing what still makes sense and what the core of the story is. It's kind of like applying to colleges. Whatever your Common App essay is, it's very similar to that, where it's like you trust that they know who you are on paper and you're just finding a specific moment that supposedly sums up who you are as a person, which obviously is an impossible task. It's finding, I guess, an anecdote or a little cornerstone that you want to share about yourself.
You kind of touched upon this earlier, but I got to ask again, realistically, like how many drafts should someone expect to spend on before submitting their personal statement?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I already exposed myself with the like, I mean, personal statements, I can't even know how many drafts of those I go through because I literally just like word vomit and then keep cutting down and rewriting as I go. So that is like hours of just like reshifting sentences and then script drafts. I guess I do outline very like I'm a very detailed outliner. So maybe like a few months in advance I might have an outline. And so maybe that's why the first draft works for me. But when I hear people who are like, oh, I spent 10 years on this script and it's been my focus for the past decade, I'm like, that's really great that you're so passionate about a story. But it is, especially in TV, like it's just like reps. Like you just got to throw stuff at the wall, see what works. And if it doesn't work, you have to move on, unfortunately.
For personal statements, when you're applying to different types of fellowships,
Mhm.
do you submit the same one to each one or do you tailor it per fellowship?
I definitely tailor it just because, I mean, on the very basic core of it, they have different word count limits. So you always have to tailor it. I found like a sample that worked really well. And this one I did workshop with someone and they really liked this anecdote I shared. So I do use that anecdote quite often. Also, it should correlate to the sample you're submitting. It should feel like it came from the same person or there's a reason you paired those in your application. It always takes me more time than I think, like rewriting and tailoring that. That's why I'm like, I don't even know how many drafts of that I've gone through.
How do you decide which writing sample to submit?
It's usually whatever I have. I mean, it is kind of like I said, the first pilot I ever wrote, I was like, I'm never gonna write anything better than this. This is it. This is the only cool idea I ever had. And then next year, you know, all the like deadlines are at the same time. And so I had to write a new pilot because I've been rejected for everything with that one. And they don't, I mean, I think they do let you resubmit, but they're always like, you shouldn't. And I think people should take that to heart. Like maybe if you really, really rewrote it, but if you're going to spend that much time rewriting that pilot, maybe you should just work on a new one. And then, yeah, every pilot I've worked on since the first, I feel has gotten better and better, which is how it should be.
Should your writing sample show the type of show you want to write for, or should you submit the strongest script that you've written?
That's actually another piece of advice I have is like each sample should be really different in showcasing a different side of you as a writer. Because especially when I have people saying, oh, can you send me a writing sample? I definitely pick which sample is most similar to what they're looking for. Or if they tell me like, oh, I want something educational, like I should have an educational sample. Or if they're like, I want like the show I'm working on is crazy and like wacky, then I also have a sample for that. So that's why I'm also like very pro just like keep writing samples. I think some people say like one a year. I think that's a good number. It will be not useful to you once you do the fellowship and you meet people in the genres you want to work in if you don't have a sample that's in that genre. It already takes a small miracle to get a script or to get hired on a show, you don't want to make it even more difficult with like logic jumps on why your sample is so different from their show. Of course, everything I've said, it's like take with a grain of salt because I've never been on that side. I just assume it might be kind of confusing. And I also assume if you're a comedian and your like samples are funny, that even your thriller would be kind of funny. But let's say it's just like super dark and super serious, and then your essays are all like funny. I do think someone might be like, I don't know. Unfortunately, people need or like to put you in boxes. So they might be kind of confused about your goals or what you're trying to do. And again, that wouldn't be very helpful once you did do the fellowship. So it might give them pause.
Another aspect of applications are the bios and the resumes. What makes a writer's bio stand out? And should you include experiences beyond your writing credits?
It's all personality. I think there's like a way to write a top line of like, oh, I like to write this type of stories that helps clarify who you are to people. I do just put all my credits on my resume, but I guess I tell people I really like writing dysfunctional characters and dynamics. And I do think that's true across any age group I write. I also really like writing things that spread joy. I'm not a super serious person, even if it's not hard comedy, let's say like kids stuff, like spreads joy, of course. So yeah, I just like writing happy things. It doesn't really matter what age or what medium, but there's always a lot of like fighting, and which I guess that just contradicts, but it's like funny fighting.
You mentioned that personal statements, you should tailor it to each fellowship. For your bio, should you tailor it to each fellowship as well? Or do you think just one is good to submit to all?
I guess I might tailor it a little bit. Some of the like adult fellowships don't care as much about my kids' credits, for example. So I wouldn't spend a ton of time talking about what I've done in kids, even though like I love writing for kids. So there's like some tweaking in that, but I don't have like a gazillion credits that I would be like completely taking things out or not. So it is thinking about your audience and who's seeing it and what they care about. But at the end of the day, your bio is your bio.
What should go on a resume that you're submitting? Should you include unrelated jobs or only your writing experience?
I definitely think include anything that makes you unique, I guess, and stand out. I think they really like to see odd jobs that are unrelated to writing. If you have the space to do it, like you should put odd jobs as long as the through line is clear and it's not like this person is just side questing for their entire career. Because I definitely have a resume that's like more geared towards writing. And so it's like very writer forward, but it includes other small things I've done.
How many fellowship interviews have you gotten? And what do you think made your application stand out to get those interviews?
Fred Rogers, I had an interview. And then Cape, there was also an interview. And then, yeah, the Disney one had an interview, which I didn't advance beyond. But I mean, each of those, when I got that interview request, I was like, this is crazy. Usually I had been waiting for the rejection email, especially Cape. I thought I had already been rejected. So I was really shocked when I got that email. So I don't, yeah, I don't know what stands out. But again, it's the whole, I think it's the mindset. Just be happy if you get an interview request, but don't expect it. It's always made my day when I got that email. But yeah, it's always felt like a crazy miracle.
Why did you think you got rejected from Cape?
Oh, because it like starts mid-April. And I think I got that interview request like early April. So I definitely thought they had already picked everyone.
And what kind of questions should you expect if you do end up getting into the interview round?
I feel like people always start with the tell me about yourself. So it is nice to have like a 30-second life story you can tell.
Is it similar to like your personal statements or your bio, or should this be a separate tell me about yourself?
I don't know how other people do it, but I see it as like a combination of the statement and the bio. Like you're kind of summarizing your life story, but with personality in it. Like you're not just like reciting facts. But then you also do want to give the facts so that they can, like there's jumping off points, I guess, for the conversation. But I do feel like all of those interviews started with just like a very vague, tell me about yourself. And you have to be ready for that question. And then the rest are just kind of like variations of that question, honestly.
What do you think the interviewers are trying to learn about you?
I think at that point, they probably already enjoyed your writing. So it is just vibes. Like, it's like I said, like they just want to see if you're a person that they want to spend time with and someone they want to nurture. They are going to introduce you to people and they don't want to be embarrassed if you start saying like totally random, crazy things. And then just being open to talking. I think I've had that feedback in interviews before where they're like, oh, sometimes it's like really hard to get writers to talk. And it's like very helpful if you are able to. Obviously, don't go like just, lecturing them, but do try to answer the question with like anecdotes and stories instead of just giving like yes or no. Don't make them work that hard for answers.
How do you prepare for interviews? I guess because it's kind of strange because they're asking questions about yourself,
Yeah.
but you kind of want to package it in a way that they receive it well. What's your process about preparing for these interviews?
I do practice my responses just in case I like black out in the interview and like I want like words to still come out. And like I can always fall back on those. But I also try to really see them as conversations because they are, again, trying to get to know you as a person. And of course, you want to get to know the people behind the fellowship also. I try to relax and be chill about it. It's just like a regular coffee chat. That's like how I try to see it. But I will sometimes prepare the morning of or the night before. Maybe I'll write out like a list of questions that I think they would ask and then have anecdotes that I know I could touch on. I always try to prepare for like what type of shows would you want to write for. I also try to prepare for like, what is your like ultimate goal, like dream life? Always prepare to tell me about yourself. And then, yeah, what do you like writing? Why do you like writing? I know sometimes people ask, like, what are your strengths and weaknesses as a writer? That's a hard one. So, yeah, it's like nice to have backup answers if they don't come to you in the moment. But again, try to like just see it as like a conversation, even though, about to shit my pants.
After you get in, you get accepted. What's something that nobody tells you about getting accepted?
The best experiences you can get out of fellowships are if you do show up 100% like ready to learn and be open to learning. And then when they introduce you to people, you should always like follow up and reach out to those people because people do want to help you. So I kind of feel like sometimes a lot of the work is like after the fellowship and maintaining those relationships and the momentum rather than just like, oh yeah, I have this like shiny badge on my resume. It is making the most of the community that they're providing.
How do you reach out to people and keep those connections warm? Because they are industry professionals and you kind of don't want to bother them.
Yeah, reaching out. I mean, I never take ghosting personally. I've definitely been ghosted so many times. And then I guess maintaining that is like an ongoing struggle, but I do feel like a lot of times when you update someone or you congratulate them on something and like you have to mean it, like sometimes I'll watch an episode of something and I know the writer and I'm really excited because it's a great episode. So I'll send an email and people are always like, oh, thank you so much for reaching out. And now that I'm on the other side sometimes where like there have been people who have coffee chatted with me and I just like didn't hear from them ever again versus the ones who like after like a year and a half or something email. I'm always like, oh, it's so nice to like see their name again and hear what they're up to and what progress they've made. So yeah, because I used to see it as like I didn't want to bother people. And that's really unless you're like emailing all the time, I think. And then yeah, just like catch a vibe. Like if someone clearly doesn't want to email you or like seems irritated when you don't like follow up with them, you can just be like, they're busy.
Did getting to fellowships actually lead to writing jobs?
Definitely the Fred Rogers. Pretty much all of my writing credits came from either just like cold emails, like mentioning that I did the program, or just people I had met during the program, introducing me to other people. It's just a long chain of events. I definitely feel like the Fred Rogers program I owe so much to because most of my writing credits, I think, came out of again making it wasn't guaranteed. It wasn't like you do this program you will get a writing job, but planting the seeds and meeting people and becoming genuinely like friends with certain people that helped me even 2-3 years later.
When you mentioned you reached out cold to some people and that led to writing jobs, how did you reach out to them?
While I was doing the fellowship, they gave people to reach out to, and a lot of times when you talk to those people, they'll refer you to someone else. So that was one way. Or like I would, especially kids animation, a lot of people are active on LinkedIn. So there's like someone who wrote on a show I really, really liked. I would message them and be like, I love your show. I'm a fellow. And then usually they would answer. Or even let's say like 50% of people answer. That's still more than if you hadn't reached out. Yeah, so much of this industry is not taking anything personally and also not expecting anything. I wasn't reaching out to people because I wanted a job on a show. It was just, oh, this is a writer I admire and I would love to like hear about their experiences because the more you hear about people's journeys, the more you can kind of, I guess, absorb the learnings and wisdom that people who came before you have.
But you also have to ask them too, right? If you don't say what you want, you're never going to get it. How do you ask them in like a professional way?
I guess the most I usually ask people is, oh, can we chat? And then a lot of times people will say yes, especially if it's like a Zoom chat and you're like very open to when. Because like sometimes people schedule a month in advance. I don't usually ask people to read my samples. I will sometimes maybe say something like, oh, if you're ever open to reading samples, let me know. But if you're like, oh, I want to be a writer, or you did like a writing fellowship, people know that you want to be a writer, and people are also willing to help. And if they're not, they just won't offer. But a lot of people have offered to read samples, and then it goes from there. I don't usually ask for anything more than just a chat.
During your fellowship, what did you do that you think helped turn your career into opportunities?
Reaching out to people, because a lot of the speakers, they were like such wonderful, amazing people in all the fellowships I've done. When I reached out to them, sometimes they were like, oh, nobody else in your cohort reached out, which was surprising, but people get busy with life. Or there were definitely people I didn't reach out to at first because I was intimidated. I'm like, they won't want to talk to me, and you like self-reject before they can even reject you. Don't underestimate reaching out to people. They're helping out because they want to help out. And a lot of people who have made it had other people helping them. So a lot of people want to give back. And then the other thing is to also form a community with the people around you. I know that's said all the time, but sometimes you feel like you're going crazy. And it's nice to have other people who have the same dream and have the same struggles, because a writer coming up like 10 years ago has a very different landscape that they're coming up in than someone now, I guess.
And they have to come from a good place too. It's like it can't be like fake. I totally agree with that. Building those connections will, just benefit everyone. As a Canadian writer trying to break into Hollywood,
Right.
what did you have to do differently than someone already living in the States?
It honestly hasn't been that different, because I guess I went to school in the States and I live in the States. So that probably is a different perspective than someone who's like in Canada actively. It has oddly also helped me, especially in animation. A lot of shows like require Canadian writers. So sometimes people will be like, oh, that's like good to know you're Canadian, which is so weird. I never would have thought that would have been like some helpful fact. I mean, I just grew up there, but yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't say it was anything that impeded. And again, people like want to get to know you and like the unique things about you. And I love Canada. I go back all the time. So I'm always happy to talk about it.
Can someone build a TV writing career from outside the States, or do you eventually have to move to the States?
That's something I'm trying to figure out, because even in New York, sometimes I'm like, maybe I should be in LA. Do you think people say now is the easiest time, easier than ever, to not be in LA, for example, or not be in a major city and to make it work? I do think it makes it harder in a like industry that's already filled with barriers. You have to be very proactive about maintaining relationships, versus in LA, for example, you go outside and you bump into animation writers.
I always thought like after COVID and with everything being remote, everyone's on the same playing field. I guess now like, you still have to be in LA to network.
Well, and like everyone has a different perspective on it. I do think I've met amazing writers in New York that I love and are great friends. When I was in LA for the few months I was there, I just realized you go to a birthday party and it's just full of animation people. And that's not really something that happens in New York. I mean, LA is just, it is an industry town. And I do like in New York that like not all my friends are in the industry, but it's just different. I do think it might be a little easier in LA.
What's your ultimate goal?
I think it's just to like write forever and ever. Like I said, I knew since I was really little that I wanted to be a writer. There might be other side quests that I've done, but no matter what, I guess the format or age group it is just like writing those stories that spread joy. That's like what I ultimately want to be doing. In my dream life, like I would just be in my apartment writing all the time. Yeah, I don't have a more clear answer than that.
Do you have a dream project that you've been working on?
I wrote like a stop motion feature. I think I shared it with Asians in animation actually, but it's set in China and it's about like Buddhist hell. And I just would really love to see that be made one day. I know stop motion, it's crazy expensive, takes forever, but I would really love to write a stop motion feature and see it actually be made. But we'll see. It's tough.
You mentioned Asian in animation. Are you part of any other writing group? And do you think being a part of that helped you get accepted to these fellowships?
I don't know if being in those groups helped me, but like to be accepted into fellowships, but definitely helped me as a writer. Like that feature I just mentioned, I only finished it because I had set some artificial deadline where I told everyone in Asians in animation it would be done by March 1st. And I was like stressing like in February, like trying to get that done, even though nobody really cared. I don't think if I got that feature in or not. I also think underrated advice is to like read other people's work. I don't think enough screenwriters do that. Authors do because, of course, you're reading books all the time. It's a little harder to read screenplays. I think that has helped me a lot in like having a more objective perspective. That's something I'm always pushing myself to do more is like read other people's work. And I think writer groups are really helpful for that.
If someone's starting out, how would they find a writers group?
I think it is like those pre-professional groups, honestly. Because I'm not in any like, I didn't like keep in touch with like film classmates in college, and I didn't go to film school, so I don't have like real life people, I guess, that I like trade scripts with. But it is a lot of friends that I made through fellowships, people in my cohort, and then Asians in animation that I really like to swap pages with. And I always offer to everybody, like, if you ever want me to read anything, I'll read it, because I guess maybe it's karma. I believe in like helping out other people with their work, and it's also helpful for you to give feedback. And then other people will also offer to read your stuff.
What's something you spent way too much time worrying about that didn't actually matter when applying to these fellowships?
It is, yeah, just like the idea of perfection. Better to just get that application in, especially if it's free, than worrying. Because you have to wait a whole year before you can apply again. This CAPE fellowship, the third time that I got in, I almost didn't apply because I was like, I don't think I have time to write this pilot. It's not going to be good enough. But you can't tell objectively if something's good. Even if you think it's perfect, other people might not. And they had moved their application deadline a month later than I expected this year. So I did end up having the time. You can't expect perfection. It's just reps. It's going to be a miracle if you get into a fellowship. Like, just like the statistically, like the numbers are really small. So it is just factors you can't control. So you got to shoot your shot.
Do writing fellowships actually pay? And if so, how much should applicants realistically expect?
All the fellowships we've talked about, I've received money from, but it's not going to be like substantial amount of money that you're ever going to like make a living off of. And honestly, like same with freelance scripts I've gotten. Unfortunately, you can't depend on these things for money, especially not in like the current landscape. So it is, I always encourage people have a 9 to 5. If it's in the industry, that's great. I work in animation right now, and I have a great time, and I've learned so much that helped my writing. But yeah, I think it's just don't depend on the money. I know for one of my fellowships, like some people are kind of upset about the stipend amount. It's a privilege to not, I guess, worry about money, but you just can't depend on these things as your main source of income. You should just think of it as, oh, it's nice to have, not I need this. You should try to have a day job if you can.
If an aspiring TV writer gave you $1,000 to invest in their career, how would you spend it?
I mean, what I love about writing as opposed to, let's say, like directing or something, is that you really don't need money to do it. I might say buy Final Draft, even though I don't think Final Draft's like the best software out there. It is unfortunately industry standard. But otherwise, like, yeah, I don't necessarily believe in like taking classes or like buying books. Like, I do think it's like you have to just keep writing. Maybe save it for those applications that do have costs to enter. But the great thing about writing is that it's mostly free. It's mostly time.
If someone watching this interview is applying to writing fellowships, what's the one thing that you hope they take away from this conversation?
Just apply. I know that's like the most basic thing you can say, but I'm like, the amount of times that I thought about applying and didn't actually makes me feel like I've applied to way more than I did. But if you were to actually like list out everything you applied to, it might not be as much as you expect. One of my resolutions this year was to receive 20 rejections. That totally shifted my mindset, because it really is like, first of all, now you have to apply to like 20 things. But also you're bound to have some wins in there. Expect a rejection. Don't dwell on it. Don't let it log you down, because it doesn't mean anything on you as a person. There's probably some small uncontrollable factor, but just keep doing the thing, I guess. I know I would have hated to hear that, but it really is just like you have to keep going and not take the losses. You can't let it say anything, because everybody wants to reject you. Everybody wants to tell you no. And your job as a writer is to block it all out and just keep writing.
Is there anything you'd like to share in advice? Doesn't have to be like writing fellowships or just like writing career or life in general.
Yes. Actually, yes. Everyone should touch grass. I feel like I, again, love people in LA, but I feel like that's something I noticed in LA. Not enough writers, especially, like go outside and just like do things with their life. When I see stories that are like super niche references to like movies from 50 years ago, that's great. There's some other film nerd out there who will get it. But a lot of the things that resonate to the average person and the audience that you want to reach will just come from you living your life and I heard someone say it's like increasing the surface area of yourself to like have new experiences. My friends always say I say yes to pretty much anything. I want to experience as much of life as it can offer me. And I think that makes me a better writer. I know everything I've been saying is like, just keep writing, but you can't just sit at home and write all day. You have to go experience life too.
Haley, thank you again for coming on and sharing all of this. Before we wrap, any upcoming projects or works that you'd like to share?
Stop Hitting Your Sister is the stop motion short I wrote with Project Involve. We just did voice records in Hong Kong a few days ago, so it's going to be another 2 years before it's out, but that's coming. And I'm also directing my first short film this Labor Day weekend in 2 months. It's like a rom-com about people doing Tai Chi. It's going to be shot in Canada, so I'm very excited about it. It's actually very scary, but like I said, like I try to do things that scare me, but I also am kind of scared and stressed right now.
And if people want to follow you on your journey on social media, where can they find you?
I have Instagram. It's Haley Yogurt. 1Y HALEYOUGRT. I really like yogurt. And then the short film I'm doing is called Tai Chi Lovers. I think the Instagram is just Tai Chi Lovers Film.
Yeah, thank you again, Haley, for coming on, and thank you everyone for listening. If you're interested in breaking into the animation industry, be sure to subscribe to this channel where I share knowledge and insight on how to get in from industry professionals. And thank you for tuning in. Until next time, have a great day.
Thank you.